I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on Solutions with Concept for EQAO Grade 9 test papers. We'll now take up 2017 test paper, solve all the questions. You're normally given the formulas which will be applied in the test paper. So you don't really have to remember them, but it's good to know them since there is no point going back and forth for looking into formulas. I hope in grade 9 you should know all these formulas. The ones which I have listed here are of prime importance. So you should know what is the surface area of different types of shapes like sphere, cone, cylinder, right? Area of two-dimensional figures like trapezoid and circle, and volumes for cylinder, cone and sphere. And that is kind of a must, right? So basic formulas for line and all those things you know about. But these are the formulas which you might have forgotten. So it's good time to review them. In this particular test paper, there are a few interesting questions based on combination of shapes, especially the ice cream cone, which we will discuss at length. Now, let's begin with the solutions. Here are the questions from 2017 test paper, right? So this is year 2017 for academics. One thing which I want to tell you is that all the answers should be marked in this particular sheet, properly filled in like this, right? Second, I have not seen any student who has complained about lengthy paper. You get enough time to complete this paper and therefore you should never rush through it. Very important is to do your calculations correctly. Calculator is allowed. So remember, you have the calculator. So use your calculator to solve or calculate the correct answers. Perfect. Now, these things are very important and don't rush. So take your time to solve. This paper, normally they expect to give you at least an hour with explanation, and this slow speed which I'm going with will be able to finish it in half an hour. Let me tell you, I'm not joking. Okay, so let's begin with the very first question. And remember, here I'm like you. I'm working like you would be working in solving this paper, right? So let's read the question and answer. Question number 1 is, which is the simplified form for this expression? So we are given x to the power of 8, and when you multiply, the exponents get added up. So we'll write 8 plus 6. When you divide, you subtract, correct? So that is how it should be, since x to the power of 4 is in the denominator. So that is equal to 6 minus 4 is 2. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So we get 10 as our answer. Option B is the correct option. So I'm marking it here, but you're going to fill this bubble here, right, as option B. Perfect. So that is how you're going to do it. Now I'm not going to fill that bubble, but I'm going to mark all the answers in this particular sheet for you. Now let's look into question number 2. The cylinder pictured below has a volume of 500 centimeter cube. So what is the formula? Well, the volume formula is also given here, pi r square h. Okay, very good. Cylinder pictured below has a volume of 500 centimeter cube. So that is the volume. And height is 10 centimeters. Which of the following represents the radius? So you need to find the radius, right? So we know the volume is 500. Pi goes as such. Radius we don't know, we need to find, and height is 10, so we have the height 10. We need to isolate the radius here. That is the major question, right? So we'll divide by 10 pi, so we get 500 divided by 10 pi equals to r square. Perfect. Now to find the r, we will have to square root, but before that, let's simplify this. So what we get here is 50 over pi, and then we will square root this to find the value of r, correct? So it matches with option A, that becomes your solution. Does it make sense to you, right? So that is how you're going to solve. No rush. That is kind of very important for you to understand. If you rush, you could do mistakes. Question number 3 here is, Which of the following is the simplified expression for this? Well, it's just a simple combination of like terms. Let's open the bracket first. So we get minus 2m plus 3. When you open, both the signs will change. So this becomes minus 5m and that becomes plus 6. Now you combine the like terms. Let me rewrite this as minus 2m minus 5m plus 3 plus 6, correct? Now that becomes minus 7m and this is plus 9. So what matches? Well, it is option B, right? No, minus 7n plus 9, option D, right? This matches. So that becomes our answer in this particular case. Next question here is, the equation below can be modeled to convert between temperature in degrees Celsius, C, and temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, F. C over 5 equals to F minus 32 over 9, which correctly completes the statement. So let me just push the page a bit forward so that you could see the choices. Which correctly completes the statement? If the temperature in degrees Celsius is 15, the temperatures in Fahrenheit is how much? So let's put C as 15 here and then calculate, right? So let me just push this page a bit forward so that you can see it clearly, right? So this is the question number 4 which we are concentrating on, correct? We are given 4 choices and that too within range. So C is 15. So I'll replace C with 15. So we get 15 over 5 equals to F minus 32 over 9. Simplify this first. So get 3 here. So 3 equals to F minus 32 over 9. Now you cross multiply, right? So we get 9 times 3 equals to F minus 32. When you multiply, you get 27 here. Bring 32, add it up, right, to get the value of F. So when you add this, 2 plus 7 is equal to 9. 3 plus 2 is 5. So we get a value of 59. Now this value is between 40 and 60. So option D is the correct option. Perfect. So that is how you're going to answer it. Don't rush. Question number 5. A pot of hot soup is placed in a refrigerator to cool. Information about temperature of the soup at 5 different times is shown, right? Is it linear? No, it is not, right? It is kind of exponentially decaying, right? Okay. Which statement below is true based on the overall trend in the data, right? So let's look into all the options now. First, at 90 minutes, the temperature of the soup will be 0 degrees centigrade. Well, it is never going to be 0. So if you look into this path, let me just sketch this first and then we'll discuss it further, okay? So if you look into this path, this is like an exponential growth, decay, right? So it is going to decay. First it goes very rapidly down and then tapers down, correct? So it is going in this direction. It will never be 0. Remember that part. So that is not correct. Next option is the temperature of the soup decreases at a constant rate. Not at all. It is not a straight line. C. It takes approximately 18 minutes for the soup to cool to half its original temperature. So it starts with 100 and goes to 50. Let's take how much time it is. So if you see this, yeah, it seems to be correct. So C is the right option. Perfect. So once we get our right option, we will stop here, right? And then move forward. Because the options sometimes create confusion in our mind. Question number 6. The total cost for an extra large pizza at a restaurant is, it says the total cost is $14.50 plus, so the cost is $14.50 plus 1.25 each. 1.25 each means some variable which they have taken as n. Which of the following equations represent the relation between the total cost in dollars and the number of toppings? Well, we got it, right? So we need to see which one matches. Well, the very first one, it matches with C, right? you could rearrange and write this as 1.25n plus 1450. And that is what we do. Normally, the fixed amount is written later as given here. Perfect. So that is how you're going to answer this question. Perfect. Question number 7. One of the following tables shows information about linear relationship. Using first difference, right? Select this table. Okay. So you need to check first the x values. All are increasing by 1. Now, so do this first difference. Okay. So from 9 to 6, you do 6 minus 9. It's minus 3. And here it is minus 2. So that is not correct. Now in this case, it goes down. So it is actually adding up by 2 here. And here it adds up to 3, which is not correct because these two numbers are different, right? Now let's look into the next options. So here it is minus 2, here it is minus 2, here again it is minus 2, that is correct. So C is the correct option. Once you get the correct option, don't check the next one. That can create confusion, okay? Right. Question number 8. Raven starts 6 meters away from the motion detector, right? So all of them starting 6 meters away. It stops 2 meters from the detector for a moment and then backs away from it slowly. So then the distance decreases. So it starts. So the very first one seems to be correct to me. So that is correct. Do you see that? It starts 6 meters away, correct, approaches, stops. This is the stop time and then away. So the distance increases. Do you see that? When you go away, distance increases. Here, the distance is decreasing, right? That means it is coming towards, right? So that is your answer. Let's move on to the next question. Well, here it says, go to the answer book to complete 6 open response. So we'll do the open response at the end. Let's continue with these multiple choice questions. That is a good option. So when you're into a flow, don't stop your flow, right? So try to complete this portion and then get to the open response. That is my suggestions, okay? Question number 15. What are the slope and y-intercepts of the line represented by 3x minus 2y plus 6 equals to 0? Just rearrange minus 2y, take it on the other side. So you're left with 3x plus 6. Now you divide by 2. So you get 3 over 2x plus 6 over 2, which is 3 over 2x plus 3, correct? So that is the slope and this is your y-intercept. So which one matches? Well, the A matches, so that's it. Let's do question number 16 now. It says, a line is shown in the grid below. Which of the following equations represent the line that is perpendicular to the line on the grid? So perpendicular means negative reciprocal slope, right? Perpendicular. So we need to find the slope of this. So this has a slope, let's say m1, which is negative since it is going down. So select 2 points, right? So any 2 points are good. This is very good. So you come down by how much? You come down by 1 unit, so it is minus 1. And the run is 2 units, right? So minus 1 over 2. Now for a perpendicular line, what is going to be the slope? It is going to be negative reciprocal. So 2 is going to be the slope. So now look into the equations and see which equation has 2 as the slope. The only equation B has 2 as the slope, and therefore that is our answer. Does it make sense, right? So we are almost question 17. The relationship between the total cost C of holding a dance and the number of guests N is represented by C equals to 25 plus 15N. Due to fire code, the number of guests cannot exceed 150. So N could be maximum 150, right? What are all possible values of total cost for this situation? Well, very simple. We know the maximum and minimum is there could be no person, then you pay $25, and $25 is for the first two options. Now let us substitute 150 for N, so cost should be 25 plus 15 times 150. Now, it is a good idea to use the calculator now, right? 25 times 15 times 150 gives you, what happened? Sorry, I had to put plus, right? So 25 plus 15 times 150 gives you 2275. So option A is the right option. Perfect. Question number 18. The total cost of t-shirts at Team Tops is made up of a setup fee and a charge for each t-shirt as represented in the graph. So that is your setup, right? So it is 75 is the setup cost plus rate. Okay. Okay, let's continue reading the question, then we'll work on it. Super Shirts has no setup cost, but charges twice as much for t-shirts as Team Top. So we need to find charges and then double it up. Which of the following statement is true? So here the rate is twice, right? So that is what it is. So we need to find the rate for the first one also. So let's first figure out what is the rate here. To find the rate, what we can do is we can take 2 points, right? So if I take these 2 points, then the total number of shirts are 10, right? We are finding the rate. So total number of shirts here is 10. And how much do you pay for it? 125 minus 75, right? So that gives you the rate. So let's figure it out. So we have 125 minus 75, and then we'll divide this by 10. We get a rate of $5 each, right? So the equation becomes plus 5, where number of shirts is n. That is the variable n. So we will write this as 5n. So that is the cost for the Team Tops. Now for the other, which is cost for Super Shirts, we have a zero fixed cost. That means a direct relation, right? But the rate is twice. It is 10n, right? So that is to say, it starts from here. However, if you buy 10 shirts, you pay 100 for it. So that is the next point. And if you buy 200 shirts, you pay 200 for it. So that is your next point, right? So the graph could be, let's kind of sketch this to get an idea, right? If you have a scale, you can actually sketch a very good graph. But oh my God, since I don't have a scale, I'm making a rough sketch. Okay, so it clearly indicates that somewhere here we have the same cost, right? But you could actually figure out equating these two. When do you have the same cost? It is kind of important. So the same cost means cost for the Super Shirts and for the Tank Shirts. Super Shirts is 10n, tan is 75 plus 5n. Bring this 5 this side, so 10n minus 5n equals to 75. That gives you 5n equals to 75, right? So for n equals to 75 divided by 5, we get same cost, correct? So what is 75 divided by 5 equals to? It is 15, right? So for 15, which we actually got, not so bad. So graph was not all that bad. So this is the point where it meets. So at this point, it is 15 shirts, which will cost 150 for both. That is what we got, right? So do you see that part? So for 15 shirts, both will charge the same thing, but we know each shirt is being charged more by the Super Shirts and less by the Tank. Now let's read the options. First option. First option here is, it is always cheaper to order, let me put it properly. It is always cheaper to order from Super Shirts, not at all. It is the same price to order 150. No, for 15 it is same price, not 150. It is cheaper to order 10 shirts from Team Tops. For 10 shirts, Team Top is higher. This is lower, right? So only for 15 and onwards, 10 is cheaper. But 10, it is much, much higher. The last option here is, it is more expensive to order 20 t-shirts from Super shirts, 20 t-shirts. Yes, it is. For 20, this is much beyond, right? So it is. So for 20 shirts, we know this is more expensive, right? Therefore, option D is the right option. Does it make sense to you? So the idea here is that from the given condition, you may or may not find the equations, but you could at least find the rate. Once you have the rate, you can draw the line. We know for 15 shirts, it is the same cost. Beyond 15, the super shirt is more expensive, and that is your option D. Perfect. So that is how we are going to answer this question. Now let's see the next one. Question number 19. The rectangular prism pictured below has a volume of 216. So the total volume is 216. Okay. Which of the following lengths produce the prism with smallest height? Now we know this is height times length times 6, right? This is given to us 6. Now, if you want which one will produce the smallest height, so you want least, right? That means L should be maximum. So the highest value here is 18. That should be your answer. Do you see that? So this even doesn't require any calculations. Perfect. If you need minimum height, length has to be maximum out of these choices. So 18 is your right answer. Perfect. Now let's look into question number 20. Which equation correctly uses Pythagorean theorem to determine the value of x in the diagram? Now it is a smaller side, right? So x should be equal to hypotenuse square minus 0.25 square, correct? So which one matches? 2 square is 4. Well, they have given the same 2 squares. So option D is a good option. So square root of 2 square minus 0.25 square. Perfect. So that is how you're going to answer question number 20. Now let's see the next question. Now these are the last two multiple choice questions for you, right? Question number 21. Paper is used to make a popcorn container in the shape of open topped, so it's important to understand it is open top cylinder as pictured. Which of the following calculations would correctly determine the least amount of paper required to make the container? So we want surface area, right? We want surface area. So one surface area is pi r square. This is pi r square, correct? The other one is the lateral area, right? This lateral area, which is 2 pi r h, correct? Height is 22. So that means 22 times 2 pi r, right? 2 pi r times 22. Since it is written in that fashion, so you need to add these two, right? So you need to add these two. Which option matches? Well, option C matches, right? Pi r square, we know r is equal to 9. Since the diameter is 18, r is equals to 18 divided by 2, which is 9, correct? So we get option C as the right option. Perfect. The last question here is question number 22. 4 streets are pictured. What is the value of x? Well, this is 90 degrees. Let's find this value first, y, right? So the value of y should be how much? It should be, total is 360 degrees, right? Four-sided figure. Minus 90 degrees, minus 60 degrees, and minus 110 degrees. So let's do it. So we have 360 minus 90 minus 60 minus 110. And that gives you 100. So y is 100, x will be 180 minus 100, which is 80 degrees, correct? So that is how you are going to find this answer. Perfect. Well, option B matches with our calculation. So it is very important to do your calculation first and then look for the answers. If you look for the answers first, you might get confused. So avoid that. Perfect. Now, we'll take a short break and then solve these open response questions. So I'll take my time to solve these in proper steps. I hope that sounds perfect. And I hope these set of questions which we just did are easily understandable. Feel free to write your comments, share your views. We have taken up 2017 test paper and we'll discuss open response questions now. The very first question is question number 9, which is walking around the park. A park in the shape of a rectangle is pictured with algebraic expressions representing its length and width in meters. So the length is 55x and the width is 3x plus 7. So that is the park. Now the question for you is, the perimeter of the park P can be determined using the equation P equals to twice length plus twice width. Determine an equation to represent the perimeter of the park using the given sides, right? So here we are given length as equal to 5x, correct? And we are given width, which is equal to 3x plus 7. Perimeter, as the formula says, is 2 times length plus 2 times width, which you all know. So it is 2 times length, which is 5x, plus 2 times width, which is 3x plus 7. Now it's very important to show all these steps, right? 5x. So when you multiply 2 times 5x, it becomes 10x. And when you multiply 2 by 3x and 7, you get 6x plus 14. Combine the like terms, 10 plus 6 is 16x plus 14. So that becomes an expression for perimeter. Perfect. So this is the answer which you are going to write here. Perimeter is equal to 16x plus 14, correct? So that is how you're going to write. Now, perimeter of the park is 350. Determine the length of the park, show your work. So now we are given that the perimeter is 350. So we can actually use the formula which we just derived. So we know perimeter is equals to 6x plus 14. Since it is equal to 350, I replace P with 350 equals to 6x plus 14. And then we can take away 14 from it, right? That is 6x. So x will be equal to 350 minus 14 divided by 6, correct? So that is the value of x. So let's use calculator to find this out. To get 350 minus 14 is equal to 336. And we are going to divide this by 6. So, sorry, this is not 6 but 16. I'm so sorry. 16, right? So not 6. Okay. So we have 336. We are going to divide by 16 and it is equal to 21. So we know the value of x is 21. We need to determine the length of the park. That means we know the length is actually equal to 5 times x. Now since x is 21, it is 5 times 21, which is equal to 105, and the units are meters, right? This is kind of important to write. Units are meter. Since we were given perimeter in meters, 350 meters. Does it make sense to you? So that is how you're going to solve this particular question. I hope the steps are absolutely clear. Feel free to write your comments, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. So we'll take up the next question now. Question number 10, which is based on fabric purchase. The question here is, 2 companies sell fabric online. The total cost C in dollars for n meters of fabric for each company is given below. Fabric Fun, the cost is 4.25 n plus 3. And for C a lot, the cost is 6.5 n. Right? So that is the direct cost plus nothing, right? Complete the chart below by determining the initial value, rate of change, and the type of variation for the relationships for each company. Justify the type of variation you have selected. So it's kind of important for you to justify also why did you select that kind of type of variation, right? So let's look into fabric fun first. So fabric fun means we are looking into the first equation. Initial value is right there. When n is 0, you get initial value. So that is 3.00, right? Now, it is all in dollars. So you could actually also include the units, which is the cost in dollars, right? Now, rate of change is 4.25 N. So it is dollars 4.25 each. Correct? So even 4.25 can work, but $4.25 each is a better rate of change. So whenever it is rate, it is some unit over some unit. Perfect? Type of variation. Now this is not a direct variation, it is a partial variation. Why is it so? Since if n equals to 0, C is $3, right? It is not 0, right? So if you sketch this graph, let's try to understand this part. Let me push this a bit here, right? So if you sketch this graph, what will you get? You will get a graph which will be kind of like starting with 3, right? And the slope of 4.25. So it will be kind of like this. It does not go through origin. That is why it is partial. Is that clear to you? Now let's try to answer this second part, which is for seesaw a lot. Here, the equation given to us is C equals to 6.50 N. Now, this is a direct variation. Initial value is 0, right? It is plus nothing. Rate is 6.50. You can say dollars for each. And type of variation in this particular case is direct. Since for n equals to 0, C is equal to 0. So if you sketch this particular graph, how will you get it? Well, for this graph, it is going to go through 0, right? It is going to be steeper than the previous one, but going through 0. So that is kind of important. And that is the justification which we are giving, right? So justification is at n equals to 0, C is equals to 0. And here n equals to 0, C is not equal to 0. In fact, it is greater than 0, right? You can write C is not equal to 0. So it is partial. Perfect. That is what it is. So I hope that makes sense, and that is how such questions can be answered. Feel free to write your comments, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that would be great. Also look for the related questions in the next video. For 11, what's the new price? It's an open response question, so you need to explain the concepts as you go along. This graph shows information about last year's total cost of banquet for n students. So these are number of students, and that is the cost in dollars. Now the question here is, this year the cost per person has decreased. So we have the cost has come down this year, but the initial fee has doubled, right? So the fixed cost is 2 times fixed cost, right? Okay. Determine the equation to represent total cost C for this year. So that means we need to find first the cost which was last year, right? So first let's find this cost. So that is our exercise. And then we'll go for this year's cost. So what you notice here is the fixed cost of this each bit is $200. So that is $600, right? So we can say this cost is equals to 600, which is the fixed cost, right? Plus the rate. Now to find the rate, let's look for some good points. So what could be a good point? Well, let's take up this point. So what do we notice here? That if the number of persons is n, which is 50, then the cost is how much? So this is 50 for us, and this height is 600 to, let's count, each is 200, right? 2, 4, 6, 800. Do you see that? So it is 800. So if you add, you get 14. So this is 800, right? So here the rate is how much? So the rate in this case is, you paid $800, so write dollars on the top, 800 with 50 people, correct? So that is how you could find the rate. You have liberty to use calculator, use it, since you might just do even a simple mistake here could cost you a lot of marks, $16, right? So this is 16, and therefore we get this as 16 times number of people. So every person pays 16 and a fixed cost of 600. So this is last year. Now what is this year? This year, let us look into the conditions. The condition for this year is, this year the cost per person has decreased by $5. So this has become -5, right? So this has decreased by $5, right? But the initial fee has doubled. So the initial fee has become 1200. You get my idea, right? So initial fee has doubled, so times 2. So cost this year, present, is 1200 plus, when you take away 5, you get 11n, correct? So let me rewrite this equation. So the present cost will be, fixed costs doubled from 600 to 1200, and this is less $5, so it becomes 11n. So that becomes your cost price for the year, right? So let me write down this cost price now here, which is 1200 plus 11n, right? Okay, now describe 2 ways the graph of the total cost for this year will be different from the graph of the total cost for the last year. So we have to provide 2 ways. Let's be very important. Let's describe 2 ways that the graph is different. So what are the 2 ways? One, it is the fixed cost itself, one way. Second, the rate, that is the slope. This gives you the slope, and this gives you y-intercept, right? So these are the 2 ways in which we could describe it. So the description here should be something like this, that the y-intercept will be at $1200, right? This is one way, not 600, since it is double, right? And second is, the steepness will be lesser, so the graph will be less steep, right? Since the rate decrease. Perfect. Is that clear to you? So for the new graph, if you want to plot it, you could do that also, right? So let's try to sketch this one. So we are saying that it starts at 1200, not at 6, correct? And so for 50, so if you go 50, you don't have to go up by 800, you go up by 400. So we are not doing any calculation. So each is 200, right? So here each is 200. So don't go to 800. You go to just 400. So that becomes your next value. So for every 5, you go up by 200. You see that? So that becomes your graph for the present. Do you see, without calculation, we could fairly accurately sketch our graph. And that's the beauty of understanding the concepts. I hope it makes sense. Perfect. Have a good look at it. So that is how we are going to answer this question, which is draining away. The question here is, water drains out of 2 different containers at constant rates. Information about the volume of water in the containers over time is given below. So this one is the graph for container A, right? And here we have container B, which is the information given in form of a table. Now, we need to figure out the draining rate, right? Let's read further. What does the question say? It says, out of which container is the water draining at a faster rate? So we're looking for faster rate, right? So steeper, that is what. Circle the one, justify your answer. So basically, we need to find the rate of change of volume, and both are decreasing, so it is draining away. So here, let's pick up 2 values, good values. Well, that seems to be a perfect value. So we get a triangle right there. So coming down means negative. So from 60 to 10. So it becomes you could write 10 minus 60, right? Divided by, as far as this is concerned, so we did 10, which is this point, right? So this point here is 410, correct? And this point here is 060. So what we did was 10 minus 60, and we write 4 minus 0. So that is the rate, correct? So that gives you 50 with a negative sign divided by 4. So that is 12.5. Half of 50 is 25, 12.5 negative. So that is the rate for the first one. Now here, what is the rate? Let's calculate this rate also, right? So we can take two values. Let's take these values. So what we have here is 10 minus 32 divided by 5 minus 3, correct? So that is again negative as expected. So we get 2, and 3 take away 1 is also 2, and 5 is 2, but this numerator is negative. So we get negative 11. So you can compare which is greater. We know 12.5 is faster, right, than 11. Negative only means what? Negative means decreasing, right? So the negative means decreasing. So draining out, or you can say negative means draining out, right? So draining faster. So we are saying draining faster. Does it make sense? So the container A is draining faster since it goes at the rate of 12.5, and container B is going at the rate of 11, right? Liters per minute is the unit. Is that clear? The calculations clearly show that container A drains the water much faster than the container B. So I hope that makes sense. Now here the question number 13 is related relations. A new line. A new line is perpendicular to the line represented by 3x minus y equals to 5 and has the same y-intercept as the line represented by 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0. Determine the equation of new line. Justify your answer, right? So what we are given here is we are given line 1, which is 3x minus y equals to 5. Let us rearrange and find the slope. So taking y to the other side, we get 3x minus 5 equals to y. Or you can write this as y equals to minus, it's good to write 3x first. So 3x minus 5, correct? So from here, we know the slope of this line is 3. If that is the case, then for a perpendicular line, what do you expect? Perpendicular line, the slope should be negative reciprocal. So M2, the slope of perpendicular line, should be negative 1 over 3, correct? So that is first thing which we have got. Since it says that the new line is perpendicular to this line, so we got this part. Now, let's look into the second part, which is it has the same y-intercept as this line. So let's find y-intercept. So we have 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0. So y-intercept is what we are interested in. That means x equals to 0. So if I substitute x0, I get minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0, or 3y equals to minus 12, y equals to minus 12 over 3, which is minus 4. So we have a y-intercept of minus 4. Correct? So that is how we find y-intercept, which is the value of b, which is minus 4. So now we can write down the equation of our new line. It should be y equals to slope of minus 1 over 3x and y-intercept of minus 4. Does make sense to you, right? So that becomes our answer. Correct? So we have justified that the line is perpendicular to L1. Therefore, M1 times M2 should be equal to minus 1. So M2 is equal to minus 1 over m1, which is minus 1 over 3, correct? That is the justification. Second thing which you also proved, it is as same y-intercept as the line 4x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0, right? So these are the reasons why our answer is perfectly fine. So I hope that is absolutely clear. So whenever you have open response question, you need to justify and write your answer in details. I hope that is perfectly fine. So the question here is open response type of question, which says, don't let it melt. A model of an ice cream cone made up of a cone and a hemisphere is pictured below. So that's the hemisphere on a cone. Now it says, the total surface area of the model will be painted at a cost of $0.0035 per centimeter square. Determine the total cost of painting the model. Show your work. So this is a model and we need to paint this at a cost of $0.0035 per centimeter square. So basically we need to find surface area, right? That is what the key is. Now surface area in this case is combination of two. So on the top we have a hemisphere. Correct? The formula sheet gives you the formula for sphere. So for sphere, surface area is 4 pi r square. So for half of it, which is hemisphere, it is going to be half of 4 pi r square. Is that clear? Which is 2 pi r square. Correct? Now in this particular case, we are given diameter of 12 centimeters. So the radius will be 12 divided by 2, which is 6 centimeters. So we can actually substitute 6 here and find this value as 2 pi times 6 square, which is 36 times 2, 72 pi. Is that clear? And the units are centimeter squares. So we got first part, that is, we have found what is the area of the hemisphere. Now, let's look into the surface area of the cone. Now in the cone, this part is open. We are looking into the lateral area, right? So the lateral area of the cone is how much? So for the cone, it is pi r L. That is the formula. Pi r L or S, right? So it is pi r L, where radius is 6 and L is 25. So we can substitute this value. So we get pi times radius of 6 times 25. Correct? So we get our cone surface area in centimeter square. So we'll keep pi as such. We can combine later using calculator. We could always multiply, right? So 25 times 6 is 150. It's good to use calculator again. I will say, emphasize on that. So that is what we get. So now we are looking for total surface area. So we are going to add both of them, right? So when you add both of them, let me write down here total surface area, which is equal to surface area of hemisphere plus surface area of cone, right? So for hemisphere, we got 72 pi, and for the cone, we got 150 pi. So let's add them up. 72 it is. Okay, so let's add them up. So we'll add 72 plus 150 and then multiply by pi, which is 3.14. So we get, well, it gives you 222 pi. So that is the surface area. Well, let's check it in decimals, how much it is. So this value comes out to be equal to, when you add this up, 697.43 centimeters square, right? So that is what you get as the value of surface area, correct? Now total surface area is that much. The rate is given to us as 0.035. So the cost will be how much? You need to multiply the surface area with the rate, right? So now we can find the cost. Cost will be equal to surface area times the rate. So in this case, it is going to be 697.43 times 0.0035. So we already have the first number in the calculator. We'll multiply this by 0.0035, correct? And write down our answer, which comes to 2.44, correct? So that is the cost. And the cost is in dollars, right? So mention dollars here. So determine the total cost of painting the model. So we have total cost as equals to in dollars, $2.44. Is that clear? So that is how you're going to answer this question. I would like you to have a good look at this particular solution which we have done. What we did here was we used the formula for surface area of a sphere, which is 4 pi r square. Since it is half of it, we did half of that. Substituting the value of radius as 6, half of 12, we got 72 pi centimeter square. For cone, the surface area, we are only looking for lateral area, right? Lateral surface. It is pi RL. L is given to us as 25. Substituting 25 for L, 6 for radius, we got 150 pi centimeter square as the surface area for the cone. Now, total surface area is combination of both of them. So we just added them up, got a value of 697.43, multiplied the surface area with the rate given to us to find the total cost. Is that clear? Perfect. So that is how you solve this particular test paper. I hope you enjoyed the journey of solving this test paper. We never rushed through anything. And I hope you can also see that we could do it in good time. So my advice to you is don't rush. Take your time to solve so that you don't do miscalculations, nor do you skip important parts of the question. Most of the time, the mistake which students do is they leave some questions unanswered or make some calculation mistakes, which is not worth when you're allowed to use the calculator, right? So make use of the calculator so that you don't at least make calculation mistakes. Perfect. And then never be in a rush, since for this test paper, you do get enough time to complete. And feel free to write comments, share your views with us. If there is any difficulty, you can email me on the email address given to you. So let me again thank you for your time and EQAO for sharing these set of questions with all of us. Feel free to write your comments, share your views, share my videos with your friends. Thank you and all the best.